Peace, YouTube. This is FleurBrun coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. Peace, family. Hello, in YouTube world. Let me take my sunglasses off. You don't like when I wear my sunglasses. Sometimes when I wear my sunglasses, you guys are like, we can't see your eyes. Are you shape-shifting? So if I shape-shift, you can actually see it, right? I'm here to discuss some interesting intel. Yes, I'm drinking decaf coffee. I've been off caffeine for over 2 months, I think, before the conference. So I'm not getting lifted while I'm making these videos. Okay. So peace. Hey, Kim a day. Was good. I wanted to get in a conversation about, hey, Erin. Oh, you're so sweet. Hey, M. Dot. What up, Maitreya, Mama Cakes? What's up, my fellow St. Lucian? Hey, Keisha. What's good? 1+3 in the house. Keisha, you up? I am the light. Oh, you like my earrings? Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, Sid. Sid, I got your message. I responded to it. Did you get my reply? Hey, Jupiter Rising. And they're different in taste and yeah, they don't taste. Decaf doesn't taste like caffeine, unfortunately. It's like getting a replacement for a boyfriend that really drove you crazy, your loins, and then you get a replacement and he looks similar, he actually acts similar, but it's not quite right. Let me behave myself. All right, so we're gonna get into, hey Darkstar, hey Eliza, I called you Eliza. In French it's Eliza, it may be Eliza, so I'll call you both. Hey Ek U A Agni. I love that name. Ek U Na Agni. Daje. That's a very Anunnaki name. Wait, let me see that name again. Ek U Agni. That's very Anunnaki. Are you an Anunnaki? Are you one of their kin? Hey Corey. What's good? Copper in the house. Turtle. What's good? Hey Hopi 444. Hey female. Hey turtle. Hey L Summers. When are you gonna make your next hit, Summers? You need to be like on Summer Jam. I'm tired of these old hip. See, I'm going sidebar. You know, don't get me started in the morning because I'm excited to talk about this conversation. So let's get in the conversation about Corey Goode and David Wilcock. David Wilcock's name is very reminiscent of who he is. It's a little dig. I've got some intel straight from the Andromedans that not only are David Wilcock and Corey Goode funded by the alphabet agencies, they are being supported and funded and sponsored by, as we know, the bipedal reptilians, the Draconians. Now, it's interesting that Gaia Network, Wilcox wanted to get off Gaia saying that, oh, they're Satanists and that he didn't know they were Satanists and he wanted to get out of the contract with them. But it's amazing to me that he was so complicit in sitting there for quite a while taking a paycheck from an organization that has been known to be deeply embedded into the satanic Luciferian occult. Their own people talk about their involvement in some of the more more low, very abusive, their pedophilia type of promoting type of organization. And it's amazing they put a Gaia on there. This is what I'm saying. A lot of times I'm getting it in. A lot of times they put these names like Gaia or light workers. These are the most diabolical beings on this planet. They are sitting here on platforms talking about other reptilian groups when meanwhile they're getting paid under and over the table by the same groups that they are trying to supposedly disclose or blow spots on. How are you going to talk about Satanists, David Wilcox, when you're being paid and a part of an organization that are known to be Satanists, but you didn't know? You didn't know. You yourself had talked about it publicly and talked about how you already felt that you were being aligned when before you signed on to being with Gaia. You felt like you were being aligned with beings that were doing occult rituals, that were promoting pedophilia, that were involved in forms of promoting necrophilia and bestiality. So you didn't know that when you were getting a nice little cushy check? It's amazing to me that as soon as they get a backlash from their own people that are not part of that satanic draconian networks, when they get a little bit of backlash, when some of the true whistleblowers blow their spots, all of a sudden you want to backpedal off of Gaia. All of a sudden you want to be associated with those beings who you nicely were funded by for many, many years. Oh, David Wilcox. Shame on you. Now, Curry Goode, who's supposedly part of the secret space mission, secret space station, what is it? The secret space, what is it? What do they call it? The secret space, I forgot what they call it. All these pseudo ET contactees, according to my Andromedan intel, the only person who has been in contact with any ETs other than the governmental greys has been David Wilcox. And it's not by any, it's only by malevolent type of beings. Okay? Oh, space, what is it? The space, what is it called? They all call themselves, I'm trying to think of the term they use, the space. Now, don't get me wrong. Always be mindful that even if you get intel from some of these characters, the Space Alliance, thank you, T. Even though you get intel from some of these characters in the ET and UFO communities, it doesn't always mean it's untrue. Sometimes they get intel that is some very factual. I will say that because when I come for someone, I have to keep it real. I can't totally disenfranchise everything that they say. If you listen to some of the lectures with David Icke, with David Wilcock, with Corey Goode, you will see pieces of the puzzle that are very in alignment with the truth. But then, because you align yourself, you open yourself, and you're receptive to the intel, they will put doses of things that are untrue in there. So it's kind of like you're jumbling everything together in a jambalaya that does not mesh well together. Okay? So the fact of the matter is, whenever someone is dirty, and I always tell you this, I could care less. If I'm serving you fresh, organic, non-GMO meal made from love from my own hands, but I'm serving it on a dirty dish that's been sitting in a dirty sink with all kinds of bacteria on it, what does that state to you? It doesn't matter how good the meal I'm serving you, if I'm serving it on a dirty plate, it makes everything dirty. All I'm saying is that we have to be mindful of these so-called whistleblowers. Now, you already know my issues with Carrie Cassidy, okay? And with her, it's more personable. With I like Miles, who does the bases. I really appreciate Miles. Big up to Miles, who does the bases. He kind of he branched off from Project Camelot. What is it, Miles? I forgot Miles' last name. It's Miles. He does all the bases. He talks about the super soldiers. I really appreciate Miles. Miles really gets it in. And why I appreciate Miles is because he always gives great intel. He gives a lot of resources, and he really interviews everyone across the spectrum. It doesn't matter who and what you are, because the super soldier program is really quite big in the spectrum of the special ops, the dark ops genre. Okay, so there's a lot of different people or beings that are actually in those programs that are now coming out. And you know that I was very fond of one, which I talk about quite often, which was You know when I lose my train of thought. Oh goodness. His girlfriend was Sarah. I talk about him all the time. I get baby on the brain very often. I'm sorry. I apologize, family. Sometimes my mind goes, I have so many. Max Spears, thank you. Kim a day. Thank you. You're in my brain. Thank you. I appreciate it. Max Spears, I was very appreciative of his intel. He had a lot of credibility, had a lot of integrity with his whistleblowing. He kind of just gave the nuggets as they came. He didn't really try to dice it or dissect it or compartmentalize it. He gave you as it came, and he was really quite knowledgeable, and I really appreciate it, and that's why they took him out in the way they did. Bastards, you nasty Draconians. Now, and I really appreciate his girlfriend. I told you his girlfriend, Sarah, at the time. I really, like I said, Sarah is another whistleblower who's part of the Super Soldier program, who's also been on Max, who's also been a Miles show, talking about the Super Soldiers. And again, I really feel like, yes, Lloyd be like, Carrie Cassidy has issues with brown people. She does. And that is my personal issue with her. Listen, we don't all have to like each other. This is my thing. I always tell people all the time, I was like, I don't have to like you. You don't have to like me. A mutual respect is all I require for you to respect me. That's it. But if you have some subsidiary agenda based on some pseudo racial undertone, then I take issue with you being a true whistleblower. If all you're going to do is get intel on those who look seemingly like you, because remember, it doesn't matter if you're a lunar and a lunar, you could be a very different species, as we know. Okay, so if that's something that you do, and then any intel you get based on, there's a lot of brown ETs, very dark melanin dominant ETs that are reminiscent of people existing here who've been hybrid on the planet. So obviously, if you're getting intel and you are totally hiding it and you're actually sidebarring it, I take issue with you. So my issue with Carrie Cassidy is quite personal, based on the fact that she has a lot of issues within herself. Because if you're a whistleblower, you should be a whistleblower across the spectrum. I talk about everybody. I'm an equal opportunist. I talk about lunars because I'm talking about lunar males right now. I talk about brown males. I talk about brown females. I talk about lunar females. I talk about all kinds of species, Draconians, Arcturians, Zeta Reticulans. I'm an equal opportunist when I come for you. So let that be known that if you're a whistleblower, it shouldn't be compartmentalized and only certain aspects that are aligned only with you are the only things you bring up. And then when you hear things about other people, then you totally hide it, especially when you hear things that are empowering to a certain type of being on this planet that is utilizing the secrecy to further indoctrinate others to make them seem like they're more supreme and suppress the people who are field ETs that are interacting with us. Kara said she made lasagna. I gotta love YouTube. We've got some characters on YouTube that are quite interesting. Okay, so let's get back into Corey Goode. My issue with Corey Goode is that he is very, very, very robust in how he expands his intel. And I personally know via my contact with the Andromedans that a lot of the things that he shares is smoke and mirrors. He shares some information, yes, that has a lot of credibility. I said some, but there's other intel that he is basically embellishing based on the fact that he's not a true contactee. According to my intel, he's not a contactee. David Wilcox, unfortunately, is one. But the beings that are in contact and dealing with David Wilcox are malevolent beings. They are not aligned with Mother Tiamat. They are actually adverse to us here. They are beings that are against all of humanity in a way that would be cohesive to the planet and to the betterment of our future. Okay, so he is quite he is quite out of alignment with beings that are either, I don't care if he talks to talk, I don't care if he blows spots on some of his Satanist friends and his Draconian sponsors. He is getting paid, quote, both of them are getting paid very nicely underneath the table, and they are basically keeping these old boys groups. See, this is where you know something is wrong. This is where you know something's going on, is when you still have these levels of the old patriarchy that have the same look as the ones that were dominating the planet, taking on a new genre and holding it in a very small space and a small niche of people that are still dominating the intel coming out as far as whistleblowing is concerned. Okay, they keep it in a small, very niche of people that is exclusive to women, exclusive to people of color. They try to say that they're aligned with some of the indigenous. As you know, that is untrue. The indigenous population, let me explain something. And this is where people need to get it twisted. I don't care if your name is White Owl. I could care less if your name is Blue Snake and you call yourself Cherokee. You are not Cherokee if you don't look like a Cherokee. I am very disgusted that there is still a level of people who are part of the misnomer community that are taking on the genre of Native Indigenous people, and they are not indigenous. They are the $5 Indians that paid for the nationality of Indians, and they look nothing like the indigenous. Do you see, family, my cheekbones? That is part of the indigenous. If you don't look like me, you're not indigenous. It's a fact. I don't say it to mean I'm better, because I'm just talking about indigenous. I'm not saying that you looking like me is better. I'm not saying you looking like me is worse. I'm just telling you that if you don't look like me or similar to me, you are not indigenous. That is a fact. I hold the phenotype of my indigenous ancestors. I still do. I am proud of it. I am grateful for it, and it does give me a certain amount of intel that is interrelated with the planet that I was indigenously from. That is why I'm an elemental. So I'm just very disgusted that we still have these people that are placating themselves as indigenous and talking as if they're shamans. No, you being a culture vulture and going into some of these tribes to take some of that intel and information from an indigenous people so that you can further utilize it to subjugate or placate like you're one of them is disgusting. It's a fact. It's part of you being a vampire. It's part of you being a parasite. You're a parasite if you do things like that. You're a parasite if you go to sit amongst the older indigenous groups because you know that they're lacking in fiat money, so that you can take advantage and pay them a couple dollars and give them some alcohol because you know that our people have a sensitivity and are allergic to alcohol, so you know it makes them more susceptible for infiltration. When you do things like that, I'm disgusted by you, and you will not be here, and your kin will be paying for that. Don't play games with me. I'm not saying you're wrong, that not everybody here on this planet is indigenous from this planet. You are a visitor, and you should act the part. When you come to our house, you should wipe your feet and keep your mouth shut until we tell you otherwise. If you come into my house and you get it dirty and you're robbing me and you're stealing from me and you're spitting and throwing up on my floor, you deserve whatever comes to you at this point at the new cycle. Don't play games with me, non-indigenous people. If you're a visitor, come and visit. But be respectful in our house. I'm sorry. I had to say that. Because I had this man call himself Blue Owl, whatever he was, talking about the indigenous people on the planet and you're not indigenous. And remember, I know more about the indigenous because I've studied heredity and genetics. That's why I'm all into the blood types and the lineage. I am part of that sect who's actually been in the laboratory studying genetics and heredity. So I actually get it in a more quantified way, who and what everybody is. Now, there are beautiful people here of all different ethnicities, all different complexions, and they're just as beautiful. But I do not respect those who take on the genre of an indigenous people, and they're not. And it's disrespectful to someone who is. Quantifyingly, my blood type, my own lineage, and my genetics predates many of the beings here who have been hybrid. So it means you're coming into my house. And if you're being disrespectful, you will be checked and you will be asked to leave. Many of you are having to leave. And based on the fact that you're not in alignment with Mother Tiamat, some of you won't even last long enough to make it through this next cycle. So be nice. Anyway. I'm sorry. I was going on because I'm, you know, David Wilcock and Corey Goode talk very, very, very interestingly about Indigenous people. They talk about it like if they are. Don't speak about us if you're not us. You know, it's just like, you know, it's just like certain people. I'm not going to sit and go to the Nordics and these beautiful Nordic women who are, you know, blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm not going to go into the Nordic and into Norway and tell them how and what they are and talk about their history like if I come from their history. I wouldn't do that. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful. There's beautiful Nordics who come from Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Scotland, Ireland. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. I respect them. I have such honor for that bloodline, and I see them and I respect. Like I don't have to hate someone who looks differently than me. I can respect it, especially if I love myself. Oh, is there someone going on here? Hold on. Germany, exactly. We're the moderators. My moderators are probably asleep. Hold on. Hold on. Is someone saying something? I can't read everything. Hold on. Let me do something. Okay, I guess I'm back. I'm sorry. Whenever I bring Venom to YouTube, they're like, checker, copper woman gone crazy. Get her. Okay, so let me stay on task. You know, I apologize. I'll bring it back some. I just had to state that because I feel like we have these males, especially lunar males, that are not from those indigenous lines, and they tend to speak about indigenous people as if they're speaking from the perspective as an indigenous. And I'm just here to say I think it's very disrespectful for them to do so. I personally, like I say, I personally respect and love so many different looking people that I feel like I don't have to be part of them to have a respect for them. And the fact of the matter is, the more self-love I have is the more respect I can have for people who look seemingly very different and different species. That's why I speak about with respect level, because I understand it's unnecessary. It's just like being on a Star Trek. It's like being on a Star Trek fleet, and we're working with people that look like elephant people. We work with people that look like, you know, little people. We work with people that are green or have, you know, all kinds of, you know, different kinds of phenotypes. We could do that if we were in that level, if we had that level of healthiness about our society. Unfortunately, there are a lot of beings here who have perpetuated a lot of what we consider to be racism, and there's no such thing as racism in the way that you think it is. It's a speciesism that's playing over and placating in that, and they created a genre to kind of perpetuate it. That's all it is. Like I said, if you're a lunar and you're an O positive and you're a brown person and O positive, you're kin. The lunar is just a lighter version of you. There's a lighter version of the brown person. They've been modified over years, so they look differently. It's the same type of species. Same with the negatives. You have brown negatives and you have positive, and you have lunar negatives. Okay? Well, I think what it is that if you've had a certain, now this is where we'll speak about this, is that you're right, Maitreya. I think what it is that if you've been sitting in a seat where you've been catered to, or you've lived in a society where you've had home court advantage, there is less of a need for you to try to change and see others' perspectives. Remember, we're coming out of the cycle of patriarchy, and that genre was very, that past cycle was very disenfranchising of women, of people of color. It was an old cycle. So obviously, if people are coming from a home court advantage, it's just like, and I like to say it like this, so we take color out of the mix. If I am a Giants fan, remember I'm from New York. If I'm a Giants fan and I'm playing in I have home court advantage, and I'm playing on a Giants field, right? And on a Giants field, I have all the referees are local, so they're all from New York. All the fans coming in are local fans, so they're all Giant fans coming in. And I'm playing against who am I playing against? Maybe the Chicago Bears, okay? And there's only like a handful of Chicago Bears coming in, maybe 5 or 6 of them. They're sitting in the same mix with all these Giant fans in a Giant stadium with all the paraphernalia for the Giants. Would you think that the Giants fans could feel badly about the Bears? Right? Do you think that they would feel like they would change? Why would they have to cater to a very small demographics of fans coming into their arena? Do you see what I mean? That's why I say I bring color out of it, because sometimes people understand sports. Remember, I was married to somebody in sports for many years, so I bring that into, because I think sometimes we put color in it and it takes away from the truth of it. Okay, this is why we have to take complexion out of things, because it's really not what you think it is. There's a speciesism that goes on that's being perpetuated, and they're telling you it's color. It's not. It's really not. So I'm just saying that's why many lunars in a past cycle did not feel empathy or feel a need to understand the crisis or the position of more brown people, because they were in home court advantage. And remember, there's been cycles when brown people have been home court advantage, so they didn't have to necessarily feel empathy and sympathy for smaller demographics of people who are not in home court advantage. That's all it is. That's it. But it's all to say, let's bring that out. And why we bring up that aspect, because we see beings like a Goode and David Wilcock, and also, I shouldn't really throw David Icke in there, because he doesn't really get along. As far as I know, he's not really, he doesn't really get along with those individuals, as far as I know, on the backlay. I don't think he gets along with them. But I personally know that he's funded, and he's part of the Insectilian. He's talking about reptilians, but he's really part of the Insectilian. He's an agent for the Insectilians, to my knowledge. Oh, we've been so many other colors, Erin. You're absolutely right. And also, we were incarnated. So I don't care if someone said something about racism. I said, I could care less if you're racist. If you're considered to be a racist, you're just hurting yourself, because you'll come reincarnated in a lesser home court advantage being, and then you'll experience the reciprocation of all the hatred and all the bias that you've inflicted on others. So I could care less if someone doesn't like people who look differently, because you're going to come back in another lifetime and experience the same abuses and bias that you inflicted on others. That's all. So that's your lesson. Our karma is what we do. That's all it is. What we do is our karma. So if you don't like somebody because they're fat, you don't like somebody because they're skinny, you don't like somebody because they're brown, you don't like somebody because they have blue eyes, you don't like somebody with brown eyes, you don't like someone who has curly hair, you're gonna come back in the inversion of whatever you dislike, and then you will experience it. There's a lot of racist lunars who came from the past cycle, who used to lynch a lot of brown people, who came back as brown people being oppressed right now. A lot of the brown people who are very angry and oppressed very seriously, and they acknowledge they're being oppressed, those were lunars who used to hang brown people in a past life. See, people don't like this conversation because it scares the heck out of them. It does. So a lot of those people, watch the skeleton key. Watch the skeleton key. You will understand what I'm talking about. So when you're a nasty bastard and you go around feeding little babies to alligators, little brown babies, and robbing them from the slave quarters, you come back as brown people being subjugated and treated like crap, and living in the hood, living under the most heinous situation with rats and roaches, and just living in hell. That's what you get for being nasty in the past life. And for brown people who are nasty, they come back as lunars who are poor, which is worse. I'm sorry. Let me behave myself. Who's asking? That's not the issue. She can see my question. You have to realize some of us are you. Cursa Star. What am I ignoring? Who saw a question? Cursa, I'm not seeing anything. Did you say something? Cursa, I don't ignore anything. You do know I'm a woman of a certain age, right? And my eyesight is not quite what it used to be in my 20s. So if you think that I'm not seeing you, a lot of times I can't see you on the screen. And if I'm talking, just because I'm much more of I'm not a multitask of thoughts all the time, as you see, because I forget things. I can't necessarily look at your question all the time, and I can't necessarily, I don't see it, and I'm not responding. If that was the case, I would respond to everything that I see on the screen. I am a person. I, I am human, so to speak. If you think that I'm like superhuman and I could read your comments and your thoughts all the time, then you're quite confused. Not ignoring anything because I just saw that. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the Draconian funded. Let me see if she's taking your words personal. Oh, I have heard of your shadow that you have to resolve. If what I'm saying to you is from a placement act, then that says something about you that has little to do with me. How you feel about what I say has to do with you, not me. Okay? If I'm out here saying debaucherous things like calling people names and whatnot, then by all means you may feel a certain way. I understand and overstand that. But if I'm coming from a perspective, remember, I'm all about unity consciousness. And I don't just talk about it, I be about it. Because in my cipher, we have all different types of beings from all backgrounds. Okay? Wait, let me read this. L says, what's up with all these stands? Dear Fleur, you haven't called or wrote. Hope you have had a chance. I ain't mad. I just think, oh, wait. I just think it's effed up you don't answer fans. She is speaking people. Oh. Yeah. Okay. A conversation, you know, I sidebarred. So, the fact of the matter is, I got some Andromedan intel last night and this morning that David Wilcock. I'm so awful. I can be a little antagonistic. I can. And Corey Goode are paid to buy draconian benefactors. They have draconian benefactors who are paying and supporting their platforms in order for them to perpetuate the messages that they feel are in alignment with their sides. Okay, so for those who don't know Draconians, I think most of you, because if you're on my page, I think most of you already know that Draconians are bipedal beings. Okay, these are the beings that look like alligators, walking alligators. They are the most frightful of all the reptilians that are here residing on planet Earth. They are shapeshifters, and they hide themselves not because they fear you, because you would fear them. In ancient times, you would see a lot of them on the walls. You'll see a lot of pictures on them on ancient Kemetic walls. You'll see pictures on them in Mayan temples. You will also see pictures on them and some of the Sumerian tablets. They are the most ruthless and most savage of all the reptilians. They are feared by all the other groups. Now, the fact that the matter is, they still have to hold themselves within the lines of universal laws. That is the only reason we can change cycles, is because that is allowed by them. They will not be leaving here anytime soon. There are no groups that are stronger or more lethal than that of the Draconian. Now, the issue with the Draconians is that they have little or no empathy. That's not their species types. They are the most aggressive. They will kill each other based on just a little infraction. Weakness for them is a grounds to murder one of their own. So if you know that these beings exist in that way, you know that they have zero empathy for you. These are the ones that are consuming children and people. They eat people. They do. Now, most of the quantified hybrids that are existing on the planet have to shapeshift. They have to use a level of technology. They're not able to shift as much because we're going, the energies on the planet to be hidden. So a lot of them are hiding their eyes right now. Many of you see them change in girth size, meaning that you will see them in front of you and they will appear smaller, appear wider and bigger. Those are generally the Draconians who look that way. They look like alligators. They are most frightening. I've had an encounter and seeing one shapeshift that actually worked for NASA when I was at the first council meeting, going to the first, and I think you've seen this video before, when I actually went to a meeting between the Draconians and the Andromedans that had to do with the cycle being taken over. Because remember, the cycle has to shift. We're going into divine feminine cycle where women are having more of a home court advantage as far as the earth is concerned. They're aligned actually with the species of, earthlings that were originally females on the planet. Now most will call them hermaphroditic, but for all good intention purposes, they were female. Okay, they were able to replicate themselves through the process of parthenogenesis. We've gotten into that, yada yada yada. Okay, so but the fact of the matter is that when I went to the first council meeting, and I don't remember anything when I went inside, I just remember that the Andromedans were worried because they know the Draconians cannot be trusted, okay? But they also know that the Draconians have to relinquish some of their power in the patriarchy, and they have to jump ship and go to a new one. They're not really jumping ship, they're just moving over, and that's why you're getting some of the females that are starting to battle it out for supremacy in this new cycle, and they're being ran also by Draconians, okay? But I did see Draconians shapeshift, and it was the most hurting. I've seen a lot of beings, but their physicality is why what's her name, Princess Diana had to be sedated to see some of her new married family members when she got married to Prince Charles. She had to be sedated because to be in front of them, some of you would have heart attacks. Now you hear some of the old country people in Mississippi. There was one brown couple. I think some of you in Cypher actually I think someone put, I know I put it years ago, but someone put out a woman who talks about she killed an alligator person in Mississippi. And he used to walk around and he was found in her backyard, but you'll hear a lot about them. So when I saw one shapeshift from human to from the actual alligator, they look like alligators straight up. And that's all I could say. They look straight like alligators. Other reptilian that looks quite like that. They don't look like lizards, they look like alligators. That's what makes them look so horrific. And if you want to get an idea of what they look like, I put a picture of them in my my little what is it called, my little before my live. You'll see a little picture, but more than likely, if you ever watch Jupiter Ascending, the movie Jupiter Ascending, you will see he had wings. One of the reptilians that looks more like the Draconians. They look that. And the Draconians also come in tiers and hierarchies of skins. That's where we get a lot of this complexionism from, because there's lighter, fairer skin reptilians. These Draconians, they're very fair. They look almost like albino alligators, and then they're the ones that are darker, more melanin, greenish looking, and ones that are dark brown, and they run in hierarchy based on their complexions. So, and also on their wings, because the wings are supposed to be in ranking is concerned. So the higher in tier, some of these reptilian groups, and it's not only the Draconians that have wings, but the Draconians the ones that have wings are higher in ranking as far as their species is concerned. Okay. And they used to, so they're hiding themselves. The ones that are fully Draconians do not come to the surface. They allow them to attack. That's how horrific they look to us. Now, our ancestors remember them because they didn't hide themselves as well. Over time, they decided to do that because they felt it was better to rule from a hidden hand as opposed to ruling from overtly. Do I trust Rudolph of Germany? No and no. I have respect for Rudolph of Germany. Trust, absolutely not. I trust nothing that I can't throw. Okay, I trust people as far as I could throw them. Okay, I don't trust the tall whites. I don't trust the Draconians. I don't trust any of the base reptilian groups here that have been ruling heavily in the patriarchy. I do have a level of trust and respect for those, and then obviously from the Naga serpent line, from the Anunnaki, I do have a level of trust for the Aquarians. The blue avians you can trust totally because they're not even based in the agendas that are being placated here. I have little or no trust for the Zeta Reticulans, even though I've worked with them and I've actually had a level of contact with the Zetas. I have A little trust for the Pelagian agenda, necessarily pro or con. Just some of the beings that are associated and that are part of the. Okay, I see him coming in and out. I'm apologizing. I don't think it's anything diabolical. I think so. I think the. Do you ask if the Earth is flat, Raj? Do you think it's flat? This question gets asked a lot. The flat earthers, listen, flat earthers, you come to the channel. If you keep asking me, what are you asking me of the flat earth? Do you want some solidification from me? Do you want me to support your flat earth theory? Absolutely. I am not in support of the flat earth theory. Absolutely not. Do I think it's round? No, I don't. I think the earth is oblong. I think we are covered by not so, well, you guys call it a firmament, a dome. I think we have an energetic dome that has been a quarantine for us to not be able to leave, and also to keep certain beef isn't flat, but it is oblong, and the appearance of it being round is purposefully done to make us think that the earth is just a sphere. It's really not as perfectly spheric as you think. It's not that. It's oblong, like an egg, kind of like an egg. It's my opinion. Oh, Aaron, you're Pelagian? Yeah, Pelagians are fun. They do their own thing. Like I said, with Pelagians, I'm not averse to Pelagians. Their agenda is a little adverse to mine. That's all. So I think that's all it is. Are they diabolical? No, they're not here hurting anybody on earth. They have their own people and they have their own agenda. So just like most 90% of all ETs who are engaging with us or who we're mixed with all have a level of agenda. Everything has an agenda. I have an agenda making videos. My agenda sometimes is just telling you things that I think is necessary. My agenda may be disclosing something and letting people know about certain people so that they have a better understanding. Everybody has an agenda. I appreciate the blue egg. Oh, can we trust David Icke? Like I said, I don't trust anybody. And I tell you not to trust me. You trust me as far as you can throw me. I always tell you, if you feel that I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, by all means, review what I say and look and vet it out. Vet everything I say out. Never take anything that anyone tells you as real unless you can vet it out. If it does not resonate with you, by all means, don't take what I tell you. Okay, level of intel from my perspective and the beings that I'm in contact with and who I am intrinsically. If that is not in alignment with you and you can't vet it out, by all means, you should not take anything I say with an ounce of validity if you can't, okay? 90% of what I tell you can be vetted out. But if you can't, by all means, don't listen to what I say. I could be all kinds of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, I just say, like I say, I am in contact with beings that, now I'm in contact with a lot of different beings, and that's where it throws people off, because I'm a liaison between many different types of species of beings, including the tall whites. That's why the young lady asked me, or I think it was a gentleman or a young lady asked me, do you trust a Rudolph of Germany? Because they know the tall whites have assisted me, especially when it came to the rainbow. So no, I don't trust any of the tall whites, but I have been in alignment with them, and so are the Andromedans. But meaning, because we have a treaty together, doesn't mean I'm gonna lay down and let you do and close my eyes and trust you. For me to trust you means I can close my eyes safely and you can walk around the perimeters of my genre and I would be cohesive and feel safe with you. There aren't many beings you can do that with. Everybody has their own level of agenda, including Corey Goode and David Wilcock. David Wilcock, it cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted. Corey Goode is an embellisher. So we're between the two gentlemen, but they are being paid by the same being. Okay, so David Wilcock, I have zero trust for him. I could literally tell you that he is ran and purely by diabolical beings, and he is funded by them. Okay, they have an old boys group that they are encased with, and they purpose these circles and these whistleblower councils. Why would any legitimate governmental being tell you or give you intel unless you're part of them? David Wilcock's people, all his intel lists, a lot of them are governmental. Why would governmental beings tell anyone who's not down with them intel? It means that they are both one and the same. They are. George Norrie is fine as far as I know. To be honest with George Norrie, I don't think he's as relative or relevant at this point, at least in my world, as far as changing or motivating people. But again, I can't say for sure. So let me not speak on George Norrie because it's not someone I necessarily talk about or know too much intel about. I've not been invested in finding anything about George Norrie. He's not a break or make for me. Protection is, you don't have to be protected. You chose to be here. Nobody's a victim on planet Earth. No one here is a victim. Everyone here who has come incarnated here or has who is part of our new cycle, we have all chosen to be here. There are no victims. No one needs to be saved. The only one who can save you is yourself, based on your behavior. What you do is your karma. If you walk in the world, listen, a lot of us already, oh, wait, Ashira, George Norrie took over David Wilcock's place on We? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Huh. That's why you asked about him. Well, I'm going to have to look. Okay, Ashira, I'm going to have to look into that. I had no clue. I don't pay attention to Gaia. Gaia, obviously, I haven't been aligned with Gaia. Okay? The beings on Gaia are some of them are highly hostile. And they have an aversion to brown people and copper people and indigenous people. And only indigenous people that they're aligned with, that's why I got in on it, is indigenous people that don't look indigenous. Okay? So those are the only people they're down with. Anytime you get beings that talk about cosmic, let me explain something, family. There are diabolical beings that are ruling here right now on planet Earth. They have always been in rulership. I don't care if they look lunar. I don't care if they look brown. They are all in rulership, okay? So they've always been here and done that. If you have cosmic disclosure, okay, let's put it in this point. Have you ever been on one of my lives where it's not been disrupted? Have you ever been on one of my shows where it's not been disrupted? So I'm telling you all this to say, when you are telling things and disclosing things that are relative to disrupting the system, they will mess up your shows. They will mess with your life. They will do to disbar you from the position of disclosing anything. You have never seen a David Wilcock show or a Corey Goode show where they've not been allotted to speak publicly. You've never seen them be disrupted. You've never seen or heard of them someone trying to kill them. So let me just let you know, if that is the case, why are they disclosing things and there is no aversion to them? There are diabolical beings in rulership. If they're in rulership, they're not going to allow people who are disclosing that to be heard easily. The only reason I come on and can get on to a certain degree is because I'm backed by some galactic groups that have my backing, that have put a protected field around me. That's the only reason I can make even some of these videos. And as you see, even when I have that amount of protection, they disrupt my videos and my shows all the time. So you're telling me that David Wilcock and Corey Goode are making tons of disclosure videos. What's the other one? Peter Flattery. What's the other one? I forgot the other one. They're making tons of disclosure and nobody's disrupting their shows. What does that tell you? Who are they working for? All their intel are governmental agents. Why would governmental agents give any intel to people who are not one of their own? They're doing it because it's one of their own. That's all I'm saying. I'm a regular person. Listen, in the spectrum of things and intel, I am one of the most ordinary beings that you will have in the Intellis community. Most ordinary. Remember, I'm a mommy. A lot of the other women in the Intellis community don't even have children. That tells you that a lot of them are clones and they're biobots. So even look at some of the other women. Some of them are not real. So even the disclosure community, you have to look at who's speaking and how they're allotted to speak. And if you notice, the only ones who have huge platforms, we had Dr. Delbert Blair, who had more intel on ETs than anybody, including Corey Goode and David Icke. Have many of you ever heard of him? No, you didn't. You know why? Because his wife was murdered, poisoned. He was sickly. He had more intel, and he was down with the Alpha Centaurians. How come we don't have a small list of so-called whistleblowers? How come you've never heard of Delbert Blair? Many of you have never heard of Dr. Delbert Blair. And he was a major and a contactee who was a brown man in Chicago who had the Meta Center. Why did they try to take down his site? Why did they take down his site and not only infiltrate his site on the Meta Center in Chicago to a gun show, a gun website, and then so that it would go to a gun site? The beings on this planet, anybody who's in a major front of this actually in the past, those are all Satanist based, and a lot of the Satanists are worshipers of the Draconians. Are not allowed. I am sponsored by the Andromedans. Yes, sponsored by Mayan sea stars that lived in the Andromedan star system. I am backed by them. You will never hear other people talk about the Andromeda in sync with the dark diabolical ones. They don't even want me on a lot of these contactee shows because it's not that they don't believe it. They want you to know it. I don't talk about it, I be about it, and I have more than enough quantified receipts to talk about who I'm in contact with. I have receipts, and some of the receipts were on my body. See, when you see David Wilcock and Corey Goode talking, where are their receipts? Other than the intel is. When you see tags on my body that obviously I could never make on my body reappear on my body. You've had people who come and see me and see things appear on my body that are symbols and codes to other star systems show up on my body. That's a receipt that no one can give you. There's only very few. And the ones who have those receipts that show up on their body, you won't see them publicly talking. Dr. Delbert Blair died in vain. Why? Well, let me not say that, because I'm here. And there's quite a few others that are likened to myself. So let me retract that. I'm here. If it weren't for him, I don't know that I could have survived the level of contact that I was having. At the height of the most contact that I was having, oh, there's a rainbow. There's a rainbow in my car. Okay, at the height of the level of contact I was having with the Andromedans, it was Dr. Delbert Blair that brought me sanity. He literally assisted me with the level of contact. I was having more heightened contact than any of these clowns talking about it. And I was not able to resolve it based on the fact that I was existing in a world where it was not denoted that there were women of color, but women of color that were having this level of contact. And it wasn't until I came out that I find out there's a host of women, and not only just women of color, who were in contact with many different beings that did not have the verbiage to really, or the conversation to really have it and engage with it publicly. It wasn't talked about, or was equated to Jesus Christ, because many of the brown women were encased in Christianity and reared. So a lot of the verbiage or some of the things that were occurring with them, they did more so like it was associated with the Holy Spirit. They took it like it was in their most likely Christianity or the church. I put myself on the line so other women of color could do this. Other women can, but women of color did not have a forefront. They didn't have a blueprint to come out and talk about it. Now they can. There are many of us who've had contact. More females have contact with aliens than men. Nobody tells you that. It's more females because we have a stargate between our legs. We're considered to be gems amongst the ETs because we can bring forth to some of these star seeds. So that's something that you'll hear very often from women, so to speak. And if you hear from women, a lot of them are alcoholics, a lot of them are drug addicts, a lot of them have a lot of inception. I am drug free. I drink alcohol once in a blue, like every 6 months. I did when I went out this weekend. It was interesting. And I am a mother. David Wilcock and Corey Goode are ran and funded by Draconians and Satanists. That is why they are able to come out and talk about bull BS all day, every day on networks. They are funded. And the only reason they were disbarred is because a couple of the Andromedans and some of the other sects of the ETs, including Pelagians and who was the other one that did it? And the Anunnaki did a little bit of backlay work and made it so that shots would be blown. They aren't what you think they are. David Wilcock, yes, he is in contact with malevolent ETs. He is. That I know for a fact. Corey Goode is not. Corey Goode is getting holographic intel in his head. He is part of a MK Ultra programming. He is part of a governmental program. I don't want to go too deep into that because that's what I got. He is being manipulated and telepathically infiltrated with holograms in his mind because he's part of the governmental sect. That stuff that he's saying is not real. It is being implanted in his mind. All this secret, anybody who says they're part of the secret space program, they are all getting implanted imagery in their minds. They are not what you think. That's why when I hear anybody saying they're part of the secret space program, I already know they've been infiltrated from my intel. And my intel is thebomb.com. One thing I say to you as a woman, especially a woman of color and a mother, if I'm coming out talking about it, you know I've got the receipts to prove it. These beings are not what you think they are. They host so-called whistleblowing, and I'm not saying everything they say are lies. I would be a liar to tell you that, because a lot of the things that they're telling you, not a lot, some of the things they're telling you are quite true, but they're mixing truth and lies to confuse you. They're making you look to the right. Meanwhile, something's going on to the left. Oh, Stephen Greer, that's it. Stephen Greer is the one who's taking menstrual blood from different various women. This is to my knowledge, okay, supposedly, okay, allegedly, let me use the appropriate terminology. Allegedly, Stephen Greer is the one taking menstrual blood, and it is his own people he's taught that know. Now listen, when I get whistleblowing, I don't just get it from outside sources, galactic sources. I get it from intel from inside sources that are down with some of these beings. They're not down with them, but they're from their sect. So remember, I walk in many different worlds. One of my closest friends here is best friends with Eckhart Tolle from Germany. Okay, so is Eckhart Tolle? No, it's my best friend. One of my closest friends here, who is a male, who some of you already met, is best friends with Eckhart Tolle, okay? And Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The New Earth, you know, he was on Oprah. Many of you know him, okay? So that gentleman here, little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I think it's because he's gone beyond the perimeters of the Earth, and I think he gets, I think he's just very, very receptive because he's been in contact with benevolent beings. I personally know that Eckhart Tolle, this is to my knowledge, is in contact with the blue avians. This is from what I know, okay? So that's the kind of world I walk in. I walk on many different levels. I walk amongst lunar males and lunar females and brown females. I walk from people from the States and people from abroad. The same. Well, that's what I'm saying. Listen, if this is the thing about being in the ET and UFO community, this is where you come with an issue. You have to, in order for you to have credibility, you don't have to have credibility in the UFO and ET community. You can make up a lot of lies and misnomers and have dreams. A lot of these people are having dreams and they're not having tangible experiences. If you are having dreams about ETs, doesn't mean it's real or tangible. It doesn't mean it's not, but some of the people that are talking publicly are talking about their dream status. They're not even having these levels of contact in real time. Okay, now when you're having contact, you lose missing time. Many of you know that already because you are contactees. Many of you see the starships or the ships in the sky. That's a level of contact. Some of you have had paranormal experiences in and outside your households, meaning that you're seeing bright lights flashing in your house like myself, or you're getting you're seeing beings in front of you, or you're hearing the sounds that they have around you. Those are all levels of contact. Now, in order to have proof that you've had a level of contact with these beings, you would have to have them show up when you're around or when you're out. Okay, so I love and I appreciate, even though it pisses me off a lot of times, during my live broadcast, a lot of times you will see levels of interaction with other beings or things messing with my screen. Some of you have listened to my blog talk, have heard other beings call, like that being that called that couldn't talk, that we realized was one of my hybrid children calling in. You've had contact based on the contact that you've had with me personally live on the screen. These are receipts. When you're seeing and hearing things paranormal that are associated with people that are saying that they're part of these communities. If you're not able to see that, or we keep records. One thing with me is I keep a lot of records of what happens to me. I've learned that over the years, that it's good to keep written records and also take pictures of everything. The pictures with the Zetas, one picture with the Zeta. Remember I showed you a picture of the reptilian shape-shifting eyes. One was my family member, one was somebody else that I met. Also I show you my tags. Also I give you prints of things. Did I do the alien language? One of the my girlfriend's daughters can write in the light. Once again, and this is why I tell you that if they're about this life, their streams, their lives, their shows would be interrupted. Now, do I say absolutely yes? Guys, because monetarily, you guys are, I'm not looking for you to motivate my lifestyle. If I'm on live or not, I will still be drinking Starbucks coffee daily until I move to the jungle, and then I'll be making fresh, dried coffee myself, okay? So also you have to look at the motivation of the beings. Are they totally motivated only by finances? Are only utilizing these platforms to support their lifestyle? Okay, because if you go to a lot of these conferences, the conferences are created to create money and income for these people. When I did my conference, I made absolutely zero. Listen to me, family. The conference that I did, I had an incredible time, and I'm going to do it again, but I made absolutely zero money. I spent more than what I actually brought in. Why does it matter? Because I wanted to do it, because I think it's important for us to have these levels of interaction, person to person, and get intel person to person. But I made nothing. When people are like, oh, she did a conference, I made zero money off of my conference. Facts. And I have receipts to prove it. Because I like to throw parties. And everything I spent was more than I received. Okay, so that lets you know people's motivation. So when you want to know if somebody's legitimate, see if what they do. That's why all these contact in the desert, all these things are making a super amount of money, but people plan their income. They plan their income based on these conferences. They plan their payments on their houses according to these conferences. Okay, that's just a fact. If they don't do these conferences, their house notes won't be paid. Their vacations won't be paid. Whether I do a video or not, I'm still going to go to the jungle. I'm still going to enjoy my life. I'm still going to enjoy the things that I've had. So this intel has zero connection to anything that would financially support me. That's also a sign of who's scamming. Okay? Now, am I saying that someone shouldn't receive a certain amount of exchange for the energy? By all means, you should, but it shouldn't be something that's your total motivation. If your only motivation for coming out with new stories like Goode and embellishing them every year is because you know that if you keep telling the same story over and over, that's not going to make for a new, that's not going to make for you to be very important to talk at a conference. A lot of these beings, if they had it in contact with any beings, they're not having perpetual contact. They may have had one. Personally, I know that Goode is a governmental. This is my opinion. This is my opinion. Okay. How did I survive previous to YouTube? Yeah, how do I survive on YouTube previous to this? Yeah, someone asked, how do I survive? You don't have to listen out this life. I will always have what I need at the time I need it. And I tell you guys to live that lifestyle. I'm fine. Remember, I have a life outside of YouTube. You know that, right? I don't mean to be antagonistic. Questions. A lot of times people say, "Oh, she's getting paid on YouTube." I don't get paid any songs that they don't pay on YouTube. I'm always getting in trouble for playing songs. I always play songs on YouTube. I could care less. I could care less what they do. You know, shouldn't even get paid. I don't know what you. I question your you, and also, if you're actually in groups, they will make sure you're good. Do you understand me? They will make sure that your life is good because remember, we're in the universe. Okay, so if that's why a lot of you who are spiritually waking up don't require to work a 9 to 5, right? You know why that is because the level of waking up disallows for that restraint. That's a form of prison system. The 9 to 5 gig is a prison system so that it keeps you further asleep, indoctrinated. It's purposefully done so that you can't have time to really expound upon the levels and layers of the matrix, right? So that's why many of you, when you start waking up, you lose your jobs or you leave your jobs, you leave the country, you have breakups. That's all a form of the awakening. So to say to someone, how do you survive? My consciousness denotes how I will exist outside the matrix. Okay? The more awake someone is, the more they're not tied to the matrix standards and the restraints of the matrix. I agree. And many of you, I already know many of you. I talked to many of you some of you are in Cypher. None of you really have like really main base. You're not all caught up in the matrix. But some of you are still working in the jobs. You're noticing that you're not being cohesive in it because you don't want to be there. I will tell you, if you exist in the world where you're awakened, it will be unnecessary for you to live in the perimeters of that base, in that prison system of 9 to 5. That's it. How you exist is how you exist. And I don't judge anyone who exists outside the perimeters because once you're outside the perimeters, you're free. It's almost like, you know, when they freed the slaves, you know, after I believe only certain people experience slavery in a timeline. I don't believe all beings of color experience slavery. I think that is in a particular timeline, and I don't think all had an experience in it. But for those who were freed in slavery and were free from the plantation, why do you think a lot of them didn't leave? They didn't leave for fear, and obviously a lot that did leave were executed purposefully to make the other ones not leave those plantations. So the ones who left realized and were successful realized, oh my gosh, all this time, this is what I could have been, you know, a party to. I could wake up when I want to, I can do what I want to, I can exist how I want to. Yeah, jobs, that's how I know. Whenever I do Kiki sessions, that's how I know somebody's awakened, because they're outside, they're unable to work in the matrix. It just won't disallow it. They won't get jobs, they get fired, they're not cohesive in it because that's a part of breaking out. That's like when Neo woke up in the pod in the matrix and then it spit him out because he woke up. So it spit him out into the garbage, right? And then he was picked up by the Nebuchadnezzar, by, you know, Morpheus and what's her name? The other chick. Yes, you all find collective ways to create abundance. And abundance is not all based in fiat. Okay? Abundance is not all based in fiat. The wealthiest people I know, listen to me, family, because I had this conversation with my mate yesterday. Big up to Kirk. And Kirk is still sleeping. I'm blowing his spot. Kirk is still asleep in bed right now. Anyway, so I had this conversation with Kirk yesterday because we went somewhere and these people were handling all these young people like in this very you know, very base job. When I say base, it's just minimum wage jobs. They were handling a lot of money. Listen, they were handling a lot of money. The most wealthy people, the most abundant people, listen, I said wealthy, I didn't say rich. Most wealthy people that I know have little or no contact with fiat money, l'argent, the dollar, the paper. Okay? Most people that I know that are the wealthiest have little to no contact with the actual paper money, because the paper money has spells on it. The more contact you have with the paper money is the less wealthy you are. That's why drug dealers have a very short span to exist. They either get arrested or they get damned somehow, shot, killed. Why? Is because they're always in contact with paper money. There's spells on that money. That's why I don't buy books, even if I'm interested in it, with that are based in necromancy. The necromancy books all have spells on them, like with what's his name? A couple of the occultists that have great books. They have great books and great intel, but I don't touch them because they have spells on them. As soon as you touch that paper, remember, paper are dead trees. Dead, that's a sacrifice. That tree sacrifices life. There's a life force attached to it, just like a blood sacrifice. Every time you touch paper and fiat, you are putting a spell on yourself. There's spells on it. So the wealthiest people don't have contact with fiat money, the legitimate paper money. Okay? That's a fact. If you think I'm lying, go just observe. Look at who handles money. Look at how many people that you know that handle paper money. Most of them are not wealthy. Look at the wealthiest people. Don't even look at them. Just look at what they do. They only use cards. They only do exchange otherwise. Rarely do they ever have cash on them because there's spells on the cash. I'm giving you gems here that you could utilize to create abundance. Okay? You could, if you're a super magician, people always talk about magicians. The people who are masters in this matrix don't even require money. They magically create fiat. The money just appears in their account. That's what crypto money is. Crypto, that's money that just appears and disappears. There's no tangibility to it, and it's not tangible and then taste or touch it. I'm giving you gems. Giving you gems. Yeah. Try to steer away from keeping cash on you. And then that could be a little challenging too, because remember, I tell you to be someone who has availability to cash, you know, but remember, everything's manifestation, thoughts or things. So if you have it, you always have what you need at the time you need it. Abundance is not necessarily linked to fiat. Fiat is another form of abundance, only in this cycle, and it will be transformed out of this cycle. We won't be using fiat much longer. I guarantee you that. Mark my strippers, drug dealers, waiters, delivery drivers. Wow, it makes sense. I tell you. That's why I say when FleurBrun comes to you with intel, I don't just give you gems in one arena. I give you gems in all arenas. I walk in many different circles. I have some of the wealthiest men, sultans, you know, very wealthy males that I'm around. And rarely do I ever. I don't even think I have a memory of some of these males having cash. Gems. Anyway, family, I was just gonna go on Wilcock and David Goode. Corey Goode. I would say David Goode. You know, I just want to talk about it because like someone asked me, what's my motivation on blowing their spot? The same motivation on blowing anybody's spot. Okay? If I'm sitting out here and I tell you that, I don't know, what can I tell you? I tell you that I don't drink coffee and you see me walking around with Starbucks, like you bust me outside of Starbucks getting a coffee, it would make me a liar. I just tell you, listen, I keep it real. what makes me keep it real is that I really don't care. I'm a woman of a certain age. Now, if I was in my 20s, I probably would have done the same thing. We didn't have technology like this. Like, we didn't have lives, and I'm a woman of a certain age. Many people don't believe me when I tell them I'm a woman of a certain age. I've existed on this planet, and cohesively, and I'm grateful that I'm still here to speak and disclose. But my incentive for coming out is more so based on, it's agenda based. It's agenda based, based on the fact that I want those who are like myself to come up and wake up and join me. New level, a new earth. Wake up. I'm a lantern. As an elemental, I was sent here, or I actually incarnated here purposefully, but I'm not what you think I am. I've already talked about this. Okay. To a certain degree, I'm a part of, like, even the Matrix has its own level of decoding, just kind of like the seer in the Matrix. Remember, she was a psychic, and Neo was like, how could you exist? There has to be a level that the Matrix allows you to exist. Like, how could she be there and be replicated over and over? Remember, when she passed away, there was another version of her, what is she called? The Oracle. Right? Another oracle shows up. I'm considered to be something of that. I'm not an oracle. I can't predict anything. I feel vibrations and frequency, so I can read you based on your frequency and vibration. But the oracle would show up again. But the Matrix allotted that because there has to be balance in all arenas. Okay? There has to be balance. Everything that happens, you have to be told. The universe has a law that is followed by all beings, including Draconians. They have to tell you what they do at the time they're doing it, or before they do it. That's why you get predictive programming on television. They're always telling you what they're about to do. They tell you about the Twin Towers. They tell you about these assassinations. They tell you previous to it happening because they have to tell you. There's nothing that is hidden here. The only thing that happens is that your level of awareness, this allows for you to take in the information or be receptive to it. So sometimes you may get the information, but because your level of receptivity is limited based on caps that are put on your gene pool, or from eating foods that are too dense, or from being around low elf waves, or from being indoctrinated, or from just being a clone or a biobot, you won't have levels of receptivity to the information based on the fact that you can't take it in. That's why religion is so beautiful. Religion is the most successful form of MK Ultra that there is right now. Still. Hands down to religion, because religions make people the most limited cognitively than all the other programs of MK Ultra. Religion is the most masterful at making people limited in receptivity to higher fields of consciousness. It does a wonderful job, and it's done a magnificent job amongst brown women. Brown women who are still caught up in church, they are so indoctrinated, you can't get them out. They'll kill themselves before they try to deny Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior. When I told people I've been a woman, most Christian people lose their minds. And I didn't even know half the things in the Bible, even though I took Bible's, religious instructions when I was little, because I was reared a Catholic, which means absolutely nothing really. But even though, in the Bible, they talk about Jesus was being paid the same money that they would pay a woman. Mary Magdalene was in the picture, and everybody thought Jesus was the male in the picture, and no one realized it's probably Jesus. The character, the actual being that did all the miracles was a female. She was the 13th figure in that picture of the Last Supper. Okay? People get disgusted. And then when I get into the point that, when do you see 12 males hang out together and washing each other's feet? I know people got upset. Remember Elle Summers? Elle Summers was like, come on now. That was a part of, being, what was it? Would you say Elle Summers? Elle Summers is a part of being modest, or like showing the greatest servitude or something like that. But no, that's very homosexual. How many men like to hang out with other men? That's why there's so much pedophilia in the because you have men who wanted to be a priest because they wanted to be around only other men. No one wants to hear that because they think I'm a witch when I talk the truth. I'm just bringing, I know, El Summer. No, I know, no, because I remember. See, at least I remember that, El Summers. No, but you at least told me it's true. I understand that, but I don't know many men who want to wash other men's feet. I know that was a religious time frame, and I realized the time frame that happened. But men who like to hang out with other men, I question their sexuality, because most men are motivated by mating and propagating with females. And they will do everything to be around that set. Whenever males only like to be around other males, I know for a fact don't like females. They are attracted to males. So whenever males are choosing to be chaste and to be priests, it's because they want to be around other males. And the fact of the matter is, we don't want to take in the fact that some of these males may know that they may be around little altar boys, and that may be also their motivation. Okay? I don't say that as far as the nuns, because nuns are not like that. Nuns have another motivation. And some of the nuns who become nuns, it's because of the lack of connectivity, or some of the abuse, or wanting to be disengaged from a world where they don't feel safe. And they feel safer around. The motivation to be a nun is totally different from the motivation for man to be a priest. Oh, football. We already talked about all my football. I mess with all our football people because they were mad. I said, the game is a reptilian. It's a reptilian sport. You got men in tight spandex. Okay. You know, my mate was like, you know, FleurBrun, that has to do with them not as tight on so people can't grab your suit. Okay. But why are you bending over with a ball in between your legs and another man is behind you going hike? And then when you run, a whole bunch of handsome, strong, virile men are jumping on top of you. That's homosexual. That's a gay sport. There's nothing wrong. Big up to my gay. No, that's why I said they should give gay males free tickets, because that's a homosexual sport. It's all about the balls. Everything's about the balls. Soccer, tennis is all balls. Men obsessing with other balls. I know some very, very masculine men, and they don't like sports. My mate would agree. Big up to my ex-mate, Nazi. He had a little, let me not talk about him. Ball worship, thank you, Luciferian. Ball worship. They're just worshiping balls. Come on now. You know, it's common sense. When you start looking in some of these things, you know, I know that I bring up things from my perspective, but I'm just saying, you look at certain things, there's a worshiping of certain types. Now, I told you, there's certain kind of reptilians that don't engage with females. They only engage with other males. Some of the centaurians are like that. Centaurians have a tendency to only want to be around other males. They didn't have females in that way. They only have females around to replicate with, to have children with. They don't like females like that. The centaurians are like that in certain reptilian groups. It's a couple of reptilian groups that don't like females. There's a lot of different species here. And there's species of female that don't like males. The Andromedans are one of them. Andromedans have a lot. You'll see them based in, the only time they deal with males is to really replicate with them. They're another form. Anybody who has a lot of Andromedan on her, she tends to want to engage with other females. She's not really into males. She really doesn't. A lot of the Andromedans, when I talk to them and I meet them, I was like, okay, you're definitely a lot of Andromedan on you. They like to engage with other females, sexually and otherwise. They don't trust males. Okay? There's certain species here that don't have dual sexes. They're more asexual, or they only engage with one another. Okay, that's all it is. But there also is an agenda to make people like that. So there are certain species of ETs here that want to replicate that type of behavior, because they don't like that we engage with one another with loving, mating, because it's very human of you to want to mate with a male and female, but the original androgynous females on the planet were ambiguous. They were androgynous. They were, you know, one female on the planet. So we got to be careful too with that. But you know, when people say the gay agenda, there is an agenda here to make most males into male on male beings, and they do it chemically. They do it by putting soy in all the food. I went to Whole Foods the other day. They won't let me film there because I was going to show you, family, especially if you who have children and little boys, I was going to show you how diabolical. Their goal is to make males only like other males. They don't want this divine, especially divine feminine on the planet. They don't want males liking females because that's going to cause problems. If you have a male who's protective of females and likes to have sex with females, he's going to protect his females. If you chemicalize him and make him sexually into a disposition that will keep him in patriarchy, then you won't have as much as that. The women won't have that. They're trying to take away the home court advantage. They can't do it, but they're trying to do it. Okay, putting soy in food, using plastic BP bottles, all these plastic bottles that have BP in it, that's an estrogen mimicker. If you go to all the chocolates, listen, family, you know I have cravings for chocolate. And I was trying to tell someone which chocolate to eat. Now, I went to the store, Whole Foods, and then I went to my local market here. Big up to Selma and Nora, who were in my neck of the woods. I went to my local market. Every chocolate bar, organic and not, had soy lecithin in it. Every snack that is organic and not had soy in it. They are getting you, family. They are changing your sexual disposition. My mate and I went out the other night, and he made a remark because you know he's an alpha. I'm mating with the alpha. Big up to all the alphas. I made a video. I have to fix my video because I put music on my video on Patreon. I talked about alpha, omega, betas, and omegas on my Patreon. But I talked about alphas, and which is interesting. I'm mating with the alpha. I enjoy mating with alphas. They are my. I love the smell of alphas. When I go to battle, I know he's not Yoga Tom. Yoga Tom can't rock with me. Yoga Tom is either a beta or omega. He most likely is a beta, but he can be an omega. I like mating with alphas because when I go toe to toe with somebody, I don't have to worry about him falling off of his fruit tree and, you know, lying there screaming like a bear. I know that my warrior is in it to win it. If we going down, we going down. That's just what it is. I appreciate my alpha. But we went out the other night and he made note that the majority of the here in Orlando, we have Universal Scary, what is it called? Scare Fest. We have a Scare Fest there. I really appreciate it. I'm not gonna, last year I go because it's kind of corny this year, but they have scary houses. It's, you know, I like doing horror, it's like the horror, Universal Horrors, whatever it's called. So we went there this weekend and he noticed something. He was like, the majority of males that were there were all gay. The majority of males that attended, and I'm not saying all, but he noticed that it was enough to make him question what's going on in the environment. Because if this is something, remember, this is something that's only happened, let's say the millennials are starting to show up. So remember, we had crack babies, and remember, there's 3 generations that are affected by drug addiction and alcohol addiction. So some of the brown males that are showing up, a majority of them that are showing up with that disposition, not all, listen to me, family, don't take it personally, not all gay men are showing up because they're chemicalized, but a lot of the brown males, because it's not a brown disposition to have that disposition genetically, okay? So a lot of the brown males that are showing up that way, I can really, as a geneticist and someone who worked in heredity, I already know that most of the mothers were on drugs or alcohol, okay? Or the mother was chemically imbalanced based on the fact that she might have been traumatized by a male who was abusing her or neglected her, okay? So whenever you have a mother, when the baby's in womb, where the chemical is imbalanced, the pH is off, the babies will come out with different dispositions. Usually trauma causes that or chemicalization. That's a fact. If you don't believe me, go look into that. Okay, so we noticed that Halloween, oh, thank you, Halloween Horror Nights, thank you. We went to Halloween Horror Nights and he noticed that the disposition of most of the males were gay. So we also know that there has been a push and a push in chemicalizing of males since the 1980s, okay? This is based in studies. So we're starting to see the effects of what happens when you place a lot of estrogen and especially fluoride. Now, I didn't know this before, and I just realized this in the case studies abroad because I get a better result. But finding out that fluoride has a lot to do with the sexual disposition being switched amongst male and female. I realized that until recently. So I found out that fluoride may have a factor into switching the general disposition of males and females during the gestational process. Okay, I just found that out, and it's just for me to see that, I didn't even know that. I knew that the estrogen is in soy and also in the BPA, the plastic bottles. Okay, so I just found that out. So we got to take in consideration. That's why a lot of mothers, when they're pregnant, don't like the taste of toothpaste. I haven't used fluoride in years in toothpaste, but remember, many of your waterways is many of your water is fluorinated. So even if you don't have fluoride in your toothpaste, remember you have fluoride in your water, in your tap water. And if you're still cooking your pastas with your tap water and no filter, you're getting fluoride in there, unless you have a filter that takes out the fluoride, which I don't even know that many of you have. Okay, so many of your fluoride, that's why they put fluoride in the water systems. Now that purposefully, they were going to genetically change males anyway by doing that. So it's interesting that, yeah, because even if you drink water, you're taking showers with fluoride. Your skin is the largest organ on you. So if you're not getting fluoride in your tap water and you're drinking it, if you're taking a shower and you don't have a filter on your shower, you're getting fluoride that way. They're bastards, and they're evil, and they're diabolical. Oh, you could thank you could thank Hitler for that one. And Mengele. They did a phenomenal job. When I say that, I'm not bigging them up. I'm just saying they did a phenomenal job as bringing those programs here in the United States of America. When they took in, when Germany, when a lot of the Germans were given anonymity and put under contract and employed here in the United States and in South America, they brought a lot of these programs because America saw that as a wonderful way to bring a lot of this research that they did by killing a lot of people, not Jews. They killed a lot of people, and they did a lot of nasty, Mengele did a lot of nasty research, but it was phenomenal research that he couldn't have done with ethics, with ethical base. He brought a lot of those programs because they are employed here by our government, and a lot of the fluoride was also on that list because fluoride was something they utilized in the concentration camps that caused passivity, and also in the prison system. While you showing up with a lot of homosexuality, is people don't realize that now. That's why I say I just found that out. And a lot of the prison systems, there's heightened amount of fluorination in water. They in water. It not only makes you, but now we realize that passivity has to do with probably a suppression of the testosterone that suppresses the testosterone and allows for the progesterone and the estrogen to be spiked. So now we know that maybe the homosexuality that is showing up in the prison system has to do with the extra fluoride that they're putting in the waterways. And also, yeah, soy and all that other stuff that they put in their foods. If they don't get you one way, why do you think why do you think most brown males that are alpha are sent to prison if they're aggressive or they're showing up assertive? That was purposefully done. The prison system was not what you think. The prison system is to get a hold of the alpha males, because the alpha males are the only ones who would be protectors of the female base. If you get rid of all the alphas on the planet by creating wars, because alphas go into wars. So now you create wars where you have alphas go and they get killed, and then you have alphas that are imprisoned, and then you put them a whole bunch of estrogen and soy in their products and fluoride, then these men are having sex with other men. By the time they come out of jail, not only are they changing sexual disposition, they're taking some of these venereal diseases and passing them along with sexually transmitted demons and affecting the women that they're coming in and having sex with as well as men. I had to ask the teachers, I've chosen schools for my little ones, but they were going to they're having sexuality, sexual action is something I had in school, and I'm okay with it being taught, but I want to make sure that certain base sexuality is being taught in a way that I feel is feasible and healthy for our children. You're not going to teach them that certain depraved sexuality is normal based on the fact that everybody's doing it. I could care less if everybody's having anal sex, female and male. I could care less if you all having anal sex. It's abnormal. Having sex in your rectal cavity is abnormal, and it's a form of cis and necrophilia. It's really an unhealthy form of sexuality. So, you know, again, don't get on me because females are just like males are having it. It's unhealthy. Anytime you are putting your penis in somewhere where you have fecal matter coming out, you can't tell me that's healthy. That was not intended for that. And then people said, "Oh, well, where are we supposed to put our penis if we want to have sex with each other?" You find other ways. If you don't have if you have a problem having sexual behavior or engaging with sex with someone who is same sex, and you're having a problem otherwise, then that's something that you have to really think in your mind where that's coming from. That's something you should really rethink. Okay, you can love anyone. I could love a woman. I could love a woman lovingly and so on. A man can love a man lovingly and so on. But anytime I'm violating her body, if anything I do to her is in violation of her body, it's not love. And that's my opinion. So I personally think if you're engaging with anal sex on a regular basis, it's love, because you would not want to hurt somebody who you love. Anal sex is not healthy. And for those who have a problem with me saying that and want receipts, why don't you go to your doctor? Or matter of fact, be like me and be seasoned and see all of my male friends that were engaged in anal sex and see what happens to a male engaging in 20 years of anal sex. See what happens to his rectal cavity where he has to wear diapers or have surgery to have it sewed up, because that's a muscle. And every time you're going against the grain of something, you're messing with the dexterity of the anal cavity, and then he's not able to hold his fecal matter when he's engaged in sexual activity. Same with women. Women who are having anal sex with their partners for over 20 years, especially coming out of the porn industry, they have to get their anal cavity sewed back up, or they have to wear diapers. So tell me it's healthy. I'm sorry. I know that keeping it real has gone wrong, but it is what it is. And it's never a denotion, because like I said, not everybody's the same species. Homosexuality is not what you think it is. There are certain species here that do not engage with females. And it is more normal for them to be in love or to be in mating with males. But those species do not have sex in their anal cavities. They do not. How they have sex, they don't have sex in the way we do. That's where we have problems with hybriding on the earth. They don't have sex to that degree. It's not the same way. They don't engage in putting their penises in holes, any hole that they can get it into. That's all it is. If your partner is, and I'm talking to females too, because everybody thinks I talk about gay males. That's not true. It's not only gay males who have sex in the anal cavity. It's females who let other males have sex with them. If you keep having sex in your anal cavity, you are going to have a host of health issues. It's a fact. All kinds of sidebar. Wouldn't disgust you. And to our gay males on here, I have zero negativity to say about you. But I just discuss things on a and I discuss all aspects of things. I'm an equal opportunist. That's what I say. So, you know, like I said, it was one gay male was, he's cool. He's cool. And he calls, he's my homie. He was like, then he said to me, he was like, how would we have sex if I love another man? If you're having sex with him like a woman, I question that you're really a homosexual. I would question that you're not sociologically, mentally unwell. Because if you're in love with another man and you're a man, you wouldn't have that option to put something in a hole. The fact that you have the craving to put it in a hole means you're an unhealthy heterosexual, sociologically and chemicalized, and you're acting in a way that's abnormal. That is my opinion. That's it. Men who love men don't have to have sex anally. They can love men. Women who love women, well, that's a whole nother demographics. And also women. So women who love women, if you're a gay woman and you love another gay woman, love another woman the way you are. If you have the need for something to penetrate you, I would question that you're a gay woman. If you're a homosexual person, you shouldn't want to engage in a way that mimics heterosexuality. If you are wanting to mimic heterosexuality, that means sociologically and mentally you are unwell. It means something has happened to you to make you want to engage with another being of the same sex in a way that's heterosexual based. That's it. I have nothing with beings loving each other. I've seen plenty of men who love each other. And I actually had men who love each other that don't engage in anal sex. That's it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not judging, because like I said, there's women who have anal sex with men. Nature, am I negating bisexuality? That's a good one. I don't know that I'm negating it. I'm talking about the extremities of the two. I'm not really speaking about bisexuality in itself. That premise in itself, I don't know that is other than something trying to resolve the other half of what they feel. I know women who love women and they only love women and they love women. I respect that. I know men who only love other men. I respect that. How they practice sexually denotes their healthiness and not. Like I said, and I'm talking from a more sociologically developing position. If one is a homosexual, then they will not mimic heterosexual necessities, like getting in a hole. You would not want to put your penis in a hole if you are a homosexual male. The fact that you're craving that denotes that you have heterosexual base, but you have a mindset that is homosexual, and that imbalance could mean that something is going on chemically and biologically. How are you certain there is something wrong their head for wanting to make love to their heterosexual couple does? Because the act of being homosexual would make you only want to engage in a way that two men could engage. The act in itself. Remember, we're talking about biology here. So if you are that of male with another male, then you'd want to engage with them how a male could engage with a male. The mimic in at require is a denotion that there's something that's not quite cohesive. That necessity. Same with a woman who's a lesbian who still requires penetration. I mean, you can have sex how you have sex. I'm talking about a more quantified denotion of why people do what they do. That's all I'm saying. Nature not. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of a really diabolical being. You have nature not, which you know is a legio bishop, okay? Legio bishop has sex with multitude of women, okay? But he only has sex, his majority of way he wants to have sex with the women that he's with is anally. He mostly has sex with the females in that camp anally. Now we find out previous to also a gay escort, and he engaged with males sexually anally. Okay, why is he engaging with females the way that he engages with males, and vice versa? Do you see what I mean? Do you see the mindset of a type of being? Now, we can get in this all day because obviously there's such sensitivity to it because we have more gay people on the planet we've had in a long time. During the Roman Empire, we had a lot of gay males and females at that particular time. There's always parts in society, and kind of Delbert Blair goes into this, where he discusses that there are certain development where we'll start to see spikes, in certain sexuality that shows up before a cycle changes. Okay, so we're not saying that this does not exist. And people will bring up all the time, well, in the animal kingdom, there are males who like to have sex with other males. In the animal kingdom, there are anomalies that show up all the time. Cancer shows up too, and people, cancer shows up, syphilis shows up, all forms of, viruses show up. They happen in people all the time. Doesn't mean that it's natural, and doesn't mean that it's healthy. Just because you've seen something show up in animals, though you've seen things show up in the populace, does not mean it's natural. It can be an anomaly, and it shows up. It will always show up, but based on, traumas in the environment, sometimes chemical imbalances showing up in the environment. Anomalies show up because there's imbalances showing up. Okay, so that's all it is. Now, do I know people that are heterosexual that are heinous? Absolutely. Do I know gay people that have the relationships? Absolutely. So this is not a tie to anything. I'm talking about again, we have a group of certain species of type of reptiles here who don't like engaging opposite sex. So some of this conversation has to be denoted to the fact that if they've not been chemicalized, they are part of a hybrid group that is not really based on heterosexual. And I don't believe in heterosexuality, because there's no such thing as heterosexuality and homosexuality. I just made these statements up based on the fact that there's obscurity showing up right now. So we have to give vision. So when there's one extreme, we got to show the extreme. Heterosexual didn't exist until the concept of homosexuality. I don't know if I'm back. Okay, I'm back. And if you want to know what happens to me about this, you want to see the scratches on my arm whenever I get in conversations that beings don't like. Let me show you receipts. What happens to my arm? Look at what they do to my arm when I talk about these things. Look at the scratches on my arm. You see these? See the scratches on my arm? That comes from me having these conversations about talking about things that are adverse to certain beings on this planet. Okay? And bisexuality, I can't really, this is a hard one, because I don't want to really get it. Obviously I went too long on sexuality, but like I said, bisexuality is something that occurs when there's just a level of receptivity that happens, because remember, there's a lot of conditioning sociologically too. So I mean, usually people have preferences. Okay, whenever someone has, usually people have preferences. Like I said, you see nature knot. Someone would say nature knot is bisexual because he's having sex with women and men, but he hates women. He just didn't have a mother, so he has this craving to have women around and subjugate them. He has this need to have them, and he's really not attracted to them. He's attracted to males, but he still is able to have sex with females. Somebody say, is he bisexual? No, I say nature knot is a homosexual male. He's a man who likes men, mostly. But why? Is because he has respect for men. He loves men. Whenever he does videos with just men with men, he's happier. When he does women videos with women, you can see that he hates them. He has a disdain for them. He has a jealousy for them. You know, that's a denotion. There are people engaged in bisexual relationships that don't like the other sex. They do it because they don't want to choose. Oh, Randall. I know Randall said I have physical attacks. Yeah, they attack. Listen, whatever they do on my skin now, they get it in the ether. So whatever beings like to attack. Thank you. I'm good. It's all good in the head. It's all well. But all I'm saying, the Draconians do mate with females. They do. But they're abusive. Like, they're the most heinously, they're abusive. They like to, it's like the dysfunctional version on, Worf was a Klingon. If you guys ever watched Star Trek, the Klingons are aggressive, warlike beings, right? ET groups. And not ETs. Worf is not considered an ET. He's on the he's on Star Trek. He's part of the fleet. Okay, so I'm just saying ET would be ET to us, okay? So Worf comes from aggressive. You ever seen Worf mate? Their mating rituals are more aggressive. That's kind of how Draconians are. Draconians are very aggressive, and they bite, and they maim, they you know, their mates, when they're mating, they're abusive, like aggressive, okay? So, you know, they're a little bit like that. So when the Draconians, and then, you know, when I talk about the association with David Icke and Corey Goode with the Draconians, like, aren't going anywhere. The Draconians are here to stay. When people are saying Draconians, how we get them on a plane, they're here, they're staying. They're the strongest planet. They will they will change their associated with, because remember, we're changing a cycle. So now the Draconians used to be aligned with certain lunar males that were in power, and the patriarchy's over. So now the Draconians are going to be aligned with some advantage. Why do you think the Andromedans had to go to the Andromedan Council with the Draconians to set the tone of what would happen? And the Andromedans don't trust them, and nor should they. But they had to have a conversation on what would happen, what tiers of what the different tiers, how the be distributed amongst the new home court advantage females. And they're not all Andromedans. It's from different species that are put in power, positions of power. And that will play out alongst the next couple, maybe 5 to 6 years. You'll start to see more females coming online. Okay? Draconians are worried about those. What really worries Draconians? Not Draconians know that alignment with the universal laws than to be against, because you have a lot of beings and you have a lot of councils. You have a lot of universal councils. So if they go against that, they would have more beings. Remember, species, and they have different tiers amongst their species, but they're not the end all be all. They don't want a host of different types of groups coming collectively against them. Do you understand? They don't want a bunch of different species coming against them all at once. That wouldn't be a service to them. That's why they go to meetings. That's why they have the parties, because they realize that they have to be cohesive. They're strong and powerful, but if they have all the groups coming against them, they're gonna have problems. You know what I mean? They're one of the groups that get respect because they're feared. That's all it is. But the other groups also know they have to stay in alignment with the rules and regulations, and they're choosing to do so. Okay? Do they have coups? Yes. All the reptilian groups have coups. All the ET groups have coups. You have groups that are go rogue, and they do things, you know. I've known that there are some draconian rogue groups that personally will work in favor with other groups, but they're rogue. It's like 1 or 2 of them that break free because they've been subjugated in those tiers. They're the lower tiers of the draconian system. So it would benefit them for them to leave the draconian, you know, and the draconian, you know, a little higher in tier. So you'll have rogue groups of draconians. I've seen them. I've seen them work along the lines of some of the new star seeds. You see them occasionally, and you know the draconian because they have the look of the draconians. The draconians look like draconians. They do, even if they're hybrid. They still look like dragon beings, like alligator people. You know. Anyway, I know this conversation went left. Do I support Corey Goode and David Wilcock? You already know. That's a negative. Do I hate them? I have no reason to hate them. They do what they do, and I do what I do. Are we in competition? Absolutely negative. I'm in a whole different world than them. I speak on them because I think a lot of times there's such a drastic misnomer when it comes to these was still growing. I know it's warm here, and I don't like putting air condition on. So if you see me waving myself, it's kind of warm. Um, um, there's different layers of these groups, and I think what happens is that whenever I speak about David Wilcock and Corey Goode, it's based on the fact that there's a motivation for me to do so, because our worlds cross. There are people on my group and their groups that cross. And that's also why you hear, that's why you'll hear certain things that David will say on his platform, and those are little digs to little old me. Or fear of the people that are associated with me, rather. Not so much me, but the people associated with me that he knows are associated with me. He actually thinks the level of attacks that he's getting are coming from my people. But they're not coming from my people. They're coming from people that are adverse to the satanic and Luciferian and Draconian sect. That's all it is. That has nothing to do with me. I just so happen to be on that side of the, you know, the other spectrum of his, you know, of his world, but it really has zero to do with me. What he does has little or no effect. The difference is I just want people to know the fact that if you're gonna rock with David Wilcock and Corey Goode, just have all the. I'm gonna actually make a video later on Patreon, closing my Andromedan contact. The woman had the woman, very loosely, who has been the one who cultivated me, and I will do her reveal later. You know, many people who went to the conference already saw her, and some of you who saw her were shocked because you dreams with her in it. So I'm one. She's in contact with many of you, and you can see me. Wow. All right, family, I see that they're messing with my screen so far. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm gonna end this live. Whenever they get to the point where they start scratching me and doing things psychically, I have to end this pretty quickly. Well, it wasn't quickly, at least you got something. I don't know if you can see me, but thank you for joining me for this other rant. And I hope all is well, and do enjoy your day, and I'll see you later. Peace.